Today's reading comes to us from the Reverend Teresa Soto at First Unitarian Church in Oakland, California. Light the candle. Hold the match very still until, where there was one flame, there are two. Light the candle with the faith that you possess. It doesn't have to be immense and unshakable. It can be the tiny piece of dust around which a snowflake forms. It can be the seed of a pine cone covered with a tough and flexible case. Let your faith be the shelter of a long, slow exhale, the depth of the longest night, more like that jewel blue velvet, less like quicksand. Holding everything that will unfold in natural time. Let your faith be the knowing, not of outcomes, but resting in the love that holding us all will never let us go.
Evening breeze, spirit song, sing to me when the day is done. Morning breeze, sing to me with the heartbeat of the sea. Evening breeze, spirit song, sing to me when the day is done. Morning breeze, sing to me with the heartbeat when the day is done.
With the heartbeat breeze sings to me with the heartbeat of the sea.
Evening breeze, spirit song, sing to me when the day is done. Morning breeze, sing to me with the heartbeat of the sea. Evening breeze, spirit song, sing to me when the day is done. Morning breeze, sing to me with the heartbeat of the sea. Evening breeze, spirit song, sing to me when the day is done. Morning breeze, sing to me with the heartbeat of the sea.
Circle round, and I'll tell you a story about when the sun was born again. It was the middle of winter, and the sun had grown very old. All year long, the sun had worked very hard, rising and setting each day after day. All year long, the sun had fed everybody on earth, shining and shining, giving energy to the trees and the flowers and the grasses, so they could grow to feed the animals and birds, insects and people. All year, the sun's gravity held tight to the spinning ball of the earth, and the twirling ball of the moon, and all the other whirling planets as they traveled around and around and around, until the poor sun was dizzy watching it all. Now the poor sun could barely make it up in the morning, and after a very short time, needed to sleep again. So the days grew shorter, and the nights grew longer. until the day was so short it was hardly worth getting up for. Night felt sorry for the sun. "Come to my arms and rest, child," she said. "After all, I am your mother. You were born out of my darkness billions of years ago, and you will return to me when all things end. Let me cradle you now as I shelter every galaxy and star in the universe." So Night wrapped her great arms around the sun, and the night was very long indeed. "Why does the dark go on so long?" asked children all over the earth. "Won't the sun ever come back again?" "The sun is very tired," the old ones replied. "But maybe if you children say thank you for all the things the sun does for us, the light may return in the morning." The children sang songs to the sun. They thought about all the things the sun gave them. "Thank you for growing the lettuces and the corn and the rice and the wheat," they said. "Thank you for growing the trees of the forest and the seaweed in the ocean and the krill that feeds the whales. Thank you for stirring the air and making winds that bring the rain." Every time a child said thank you, the sun began to feel a little warmer, a little brighter. Wrapped safely in the arms of night, the sun grew younger and younger. At last, the children had to go to bed. "We will stay up and wait for the sun to rise again," the old one said. "Can't we stay up too?" the children asked. "You can try, but you will get too sleepy," the old ones replied. "But you can each light a candle, because all fire is a spark of the sun's fire. Put your candle in a very safe place and let it keep vigil for you as you sleep and dream of sunrise." So the children lit their candles and put them in very safe places. And each flame was a little spark of the sun's fire. And the sun peeped out from between the arms of night and saw all the little fires and began to feel warmer and brighter and younger still. Early in the morning, the old ones woke the children. Together they climbed a high hill and faced to the east, the direction of sunrise. They sang songs to the sun and ran around trying to keep warm. They waited and waited to see what the dawn would bring. The sky began to turn from black to indigo to blue. Slowly the sky grew light. A golden glow crept over the horizon. Night opened her great arms, and in a burst of brightness, the sun appeared, new and strong and shining. For in the long night, the sun had rested well and grown young from the songs and the thanks of the children, young as a brand new baby, born out of night once more. Everybody cheered, and the children jumped up and down. "The sun has returned! The sun is reborn!" the people cried. And they danced and sang to celebrate the birth of a new day, and then went home to breakfast.
At this winter's turning of the year, let us go gently for once into the night, its dream-drenched, glittering stillness, a haven for our souls. There is something beyond the dull brightness of midday, fluorescent and buzzing. Something to praise beyond the sun, triumphing over the intricacies of shadowed moonlight. Bring in the old, beautiful realm of holy night, echoing with ancient voices, rustling with intimacy's passion, luminous with stars. Cradled in darkness, be restored to the embrace of mystery. Glory wakes here. Let it kindle your joy.
Blessed Solstice, and good evening. As perhaps you can see out the chancel window above me, the light is starting to fade. I'm recording this within an hour of dusk. The twilight is approaching. And on the night we're sharing this with you, it is, of course, the longest night of the year. So it seemed an appropriate time to take a moment to reflect on what this night means and what this darkness means. It's a darkness that has been reflected on throughout human history, and there have been so many stories written, myths told, to explain and come to terms with the fact that the days grow shorter, the nights grow longer during this time. In ancient times, it certainly was, for some, a time of trepidation, a time of concern. And yet, it's also a time to realize that all things change, and they change in new ways. Because the remarkable thing, and in fact, on another level, it's wholly unremarkable, about the longest night of the year is that the nights are going to grow shorter, starting immediately. The days will start to grow longer. It will seem slow and minuscule at first, but the light will return. And there are certainly many who will regard this as a good thing. But that's only part of the story. Because this story about this value that too many of us have about light being better than darkness is misguided at best, and in fact has been used in deeply problematic ways over time. The idea that light is good, dark bad, has been used as an excuse by far too many, not only to overemphasize light, but to denigrate that which is dark, to denigrate those who appear darker in skin tone, etc. We know that there's so much more to it than that, that simplistic narrative is simply wrong. Light and dark are each good in their way. Too much of one or the other is problematic, and we have this balance that comes about every year. That the darkness grows as the light fades, but then this time of year marks the beginning of the light returning. We can recognize that there is deep value in this time, that there is something good to be found in the times of darkness. Because even though we easily say, oh, these are dark times we live in, and they are certainly fraught times, they are certainly anxious, and for many painful times. A pandemic spreading worldwide and claiming far too many lives. Political unrest on more levels than I will begin to go into now. Injustices, racial, environmental, and others as well, are so prevalent for us. And yes, these are bad. And times of darkness can be times of reflection, times of rest and rejuvenation, times to dwell in peace, and not only to recharge, but sometimes to prepare for the times of light, for the ways to bring a new kind of light into the world. So I hope this night for us can be some time for rest, some time for reflection. And it can be a reminder of what's good about the dark, a reminder that we can go forward from this time, trusting that light is indeed returning, and that it will indeed be joyful and celebratory for us now and in the future. So may it be for us all.
Darkness does not mean doom. It only means mystery. Our human brains, when faced with darkness, often imagine the worst. That our fears are true, that our worries were premonitions. When we remember that darkness only means we don't know all that is there, we are able to embrace it as a tool for preparations, for rest, and for renewal. May we embrace the mystery of the dark and release ourselves from anxiety. May we hold out hope for personal change, for world change, the kind of hope that inspires us to keep on showing up, lighting candles and loving the world. May it be so in this season and always. Blessed be.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.